Hello and good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this side event of the UNLDC 5 conference, where we are going to talk about the nutraceuticals and how in practice nutraceuticals can help generate income and development for least developed countries. I have the pleasure to introduce to you our moderator today, Mrs. Terian Chapet from CNBC Africa. She came to especially from Kenya for this meeting, and she will be guiding us in our deliberations. Terian, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Andre, and good afternoon, everyone. Usually in my country, when somebody says good afternoon, you say good afternoon right back. So I'll try again as if I did not say that before. Good afternoon, everyone. That's much better. Thank you for joining us on this session on building productive capacities and impact investing in LDCs with a focus on the case of nutraceuticals. A big thanks to our hosts today, the Common Fund for Commodities at CFC, and of course, UNCTAD. As mentioned, my name is Terian Chapet. I am a journalist and I will be moderating this session. So naturally, of course, as a finance journalist, I'm attracted to numbers and data. And so I went hunting when I heard of the word nutraceuticals, which incidentally is the first time that I heard it, to find out, what is the potential of nutraceuticals? What is it actually about? And I saw that the global nutraceuticals market is expected to grow at a rate of, depending on who you read, between 5 and 9%. Over the next few years, and will reach a market size of between $400 USD and $600 USD billion for the year 2025 to 2027. And of course, this is driven by growing healthcare awareness among the population worldwide and the needs for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. A report written by the Common Fund for Commodities and UNCTAD highlights the opportunities, the growing market for nutraceuticals. And the question we are asking today is how will LDCs and landlocked countries that often face both structural and geographical advantages tap into the available market opportunities? So the panel we have in front of us today will discuss how LDCs can overcome the challenges they face, and of course, how they can take advantage of the opportunities that are available, related, of course, to nutraceutical products, and to strengthen economic resilience, and most importantly, increase farmers' income. I would like to quickly introduce my panel. Mr. Andrew Hunt, who's sitting right next to me, is the CEO of Aduna Limited, and he will be giving us a presentation later. UNCTAD Director Paul Akiwumi, who's the Director, Division for Africa, LDCs and Special Programs at UNCTAD. We also have His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed Bilal, who is the Managing Director, CFC. And next to him, Nicholas Krom, the Chief Operations Officer of CFC, who will be telling us more about how we can engage further. So very quickly, some introductory remarks. And for that, I'd like to welcome Paul Akiwumi to give us his remarks.
Thank you very much, and thank you all very much. First of all, I'd like to thank you. Very closely with CFC for a very long time, and actually, in fact, it's not a coincidence because CFC was born out of the new international economic order negotiations in the 70s and 80s. So we have been joined at the hip for quite some time now, and we have been able to spend a lot of time and effort and money in helping least developed countries in their endeavor. This afternoon, we're going to focus, as mentioned, on productive capacities and impact investing, and two issues of critical concern for the Doha Programme of Action. But we're going to look at it through the lens of the potential of nutraceutical products for export, diversification, and investment promotion in LDCs. But allow me to share with you some of the key results of this report. But before I do that, I think I must answer the question that many of you may be asking yourself in your mind right now, and what exactly are nutraceuticals? I think it's important that we understand this. And nutraceutical products, as defined, are health foods or health-enhancing foods. They are also known as functional foods or dietary supplements. And a list of nutraceuticals would include things like ginger, turmeric, lime, romaine, mushrooms, cardamom, sesame, and frankincense. So that gives you a perspective and idea what nutraceutical. Now, some would say that nutraceuticals are all the rage today, new thing. The younger generations are increasingly likely to use natural medicinal products, which reach the world audience through YouTube channels, Reddit threads, and Twitter celebrities. With this, entire new markets are exploding for food products, and until recently only had a relatively modest and stable demand. However, this is not quite entirely true, because nutraceuticals are the oldest game in medicine. From folk medicine in China to Ayurveda in India to the Hippocratic that proved the medicine of the ancient Greeks, nutraceuticals have been valued by society thousands of years, and they are, strictly speaking, not the new fashion. The market has widened, that is undeniable, but it has always been there. Now, you may ask, how much has the market widened? And according to our research, the global nutraceutical market, comprising functional foods and dietary supplements, was estimated at $396 billion in 2021. And to give you some perspective of that, the nutraceutical market is now about 1/3 the size of the global market of grains, or 1/5 the size of the market of cars. And most importantly, this is the market that is growing very rapidly, particularly in populous developing markets such as China and India. And we expect the global nutraceutical market to reach $650 billion in 2030. Now, how do LDCs stand to benefit from this rapidly growing market? Well, first, some LDCs are rich in nutraceuticals, and our study have identified several products with strong potential for development in a few LDCs. And these include red rice, cardamom, citrus-rich and bhutan, ginger, cardamom, and sea buck, corn in Nepal, and chia and cashew nuts, and sesames in Burkina Faso, and teff and frankincense and sesame in Ethiopia. These are important nutraceutical products with growing demand and continuous expanding markets in developing countries. However, our study also revealed that least developed countries face important constraints to really develop their nutraceutical exports to their full potential. Some of these are supply capacity constraints, inadequate infrastructure, tools, or skills, and some of them are non-trade barriers, including the prevalent use of organic and rules of origin labels and standards for these products, as well as incomplete access to global markets. That said, solving these constraints is a massive opportunity for the LDCs on the supply side to develop an industry which is less capital intensive than its manufacturing or service sector counterparts, and for which there tends to be a pre-existing, albeit small, dedicated workforce. And on the trade side, nutraceuticals give LDCs all the right incentives to promote foreign investment, to develop organic products, biodiversity and environmental protection practices, and to market for geographic indication, trademarks, and other kinds of value-added branding. And to succeed in this effort, international organizations like ourselves are trying to help the LDCs. Now, domestically, these efforts can provide huge positive spillover effects. Cooperatives for small farmers and trade associations may flourish. Forward and backward linkages in the production of nutraceuticals could help to expand processing and secure greater mechanization in the agro-industry sector. Competent government extension and quality control services would also be extremely helpful. And this process could help to facilitate the participation of women, especially young and rural women, in the economy. To reap these potential benefits, targeted, relevant, and appropriate incentive structures and government support without a doubt is needed. More generally, the case of nutraceuticals is a case of micro-intervention with macroeconomic results. And by facilitating best practices across the whole value chain, nutraceuticals may help LDCs in their long-standing mission of building productive capacities for economic diversification. And indeed, this is the case that proves that while diversification into manufacturing is critically important, it is not the only way of achieving higher value addition, productivity growth, and structural transformation in LDCs. And finally, this is also, I think, very much a lesson for us all that biodiversity in itself is a tool for economic diversification and inclusive and sustainable development. So on those few words, I'd like to once again thank the Managing Director of UNCTAD for his continued collaboration and support, and look forward to working closely in that place and future policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akiwumi, for your introductory remarks. I'd like to now welcome His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed Bilal, the Managing Director of CFC, to give us his introductory remarks.
Good afternoon, Ms. Anshevi. I haven't heard the response back from you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good day to all of you, whoever is here and who is watching it from wherever you are, most importantly from my headquarters in Amsterdam. Folks, this is the time that we have been working for, because the Common Fund for Commodities, we are in the world of commodities. As you know that our life is everything about commodities, from whatever you have in your plate, in your dress, in your cell phone or in your car. It's all about commodities. But compared to the duties that we are very small. We are so grateful to our partners, UNCTAD, as Mr. Paul Akiwumi has said, that we came into existence through an UNCTAD-led process, and we owe our existence and survival to the support that we received from UNCTAD. Now, we came here all the way from Amsterdam to Doha to bring this excellent publication before you, because we came to see in the Common Fund of Commodities that you can do all kind of business in your life, but this is the one that not only gives you something, but also to the others. It's a truly an win-win enterprise. And if you go back little back to our part of history, that's back in 2010 when we adopted this Istanbul Programme of Action. We at that time we promised that out of 48 LDCs at that time, that we will have 50% by 2020 graduated out. Now you the result, we have still 46. It means that there is no effort that we should leave behind to make it count. Be it your food, be it your cereals, grains, coffee, whatever it is, that will bring more income to our farmers, to our smallholders. We are all for it. And I know Mr. Palakshmi, he gave you the almost a snapshot of what we are discussing about. So I will not try to repeat that. Rather, I will try to share some of the experience that we gathered in our way of life. I think about a month back, I had the opportunity to receive the ambassador of Ethiopia in my office. And she came to me on the same day when this Dubai Marathon was happening. And we came to see in the Dubai Marathon almost 1 to 10 is Ethiopia. More importantly, the lady who won this marathon, she just gave birth almost weeks away, and she came here to win her marathon. Now may wonder that what is the link here? I don't know. But if you read this report, and if you go into the Ethiopian part, you may find something. That there is an item called CAF that they use as some kind of nutraceuticals, and I don't know, maybe there is a link there. And I can go on to cite for other countries as well. My colleague from Bhutan is here. My dear friend, I live in Amsterdam, and once we all need to go to doctor. Once I went to the doctor and he said that, what's your staple food? I said, rice. But I come from Bangladesh. Then said that you take rice with curry or curry with rice. I said, I take rice with curry. Then he said that, no, you have to change it. You have to take curry with rice and go for the red rice. And then I said, where do you get the red rice? They said, no, you go to any shop, you'll get it. Believe in me, I searched all over Netherlands. There is no red rice. They have something called whole grain or something, but it is nowhere near to what you have. So this brings us to see that whatever this potential that it has for this kind of items, it's not only life-changing, more important for the younger generations that who are looking for these opportunities. And if we really truly live onto this promise of graduating out these LDCs, they are the entrepreneurs. This young generation, only in Africa, 10 to 12 million is joining every year. So this is an opportunity, and in a few minutes you'll hear from my colleague here in the CFC that we are going to follow up on this report in a big way. And we are looking for your attention. Please come to us with your ideas that how we can bring these to fruition. This is now only a concept. Now it is our job to make it happen. And we would also like to request all the member countries whose name is here, please try to go back to it, try to share with your press, with your public, with your chambers, more importantly with your youth organizations, so that they know how much potential is latent there. And I'd just like to conclude by saying that to the UNCTAD, this is only one part of our cooperation. But as things are now as stands, we would like to go back to the core of the problem. Because it's our experience, I think you concur with us, the core of the problem is that poverty is sticking around the commodities. And these commodities are being produced and served to us by those smallholders. And it is a pity that those people to whom we outsourced the most important duties of our life, our food, I think we have pay better attention to them. We have to see that how we can bring more resources, more opportunity to them. And in life, as we can say that for the like of Elon Musk, I think, who is looking at some of, I think, his aspiration is to have a good 100 years. Right. The good is the important one, because now more and more we came to see that although the life longevity has increased, but in fact our health span has decreased, because research shows that almost 20% of a man's life they are spent in poor health. And for women, it is even more, 23%. So if we We don't want to achieve immortality, but if we want to have a healthy diet, I think we have to pay attention to what we eat. And this nutraceutical that we're serving you in this report, it give you a lot of menu that you have to consider and have a good life for you. And I can tell you, in your next birthday, you'll look younger. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your thoughts. And you've also raised a very controversial issue. I'm from Kenya, and Musi here may not agree with me, but the jury's out on who the best runners in the world are. Between Ethiopia and their tech, and Kenya and our baobab. But on to serious issues. During COVID, when a lot of companies were closing down, we have a favorite drink in Kenya, and for those of you who have been might know, it's called a dawa. So it's made using honey, ginger, and garlic. And we saw some new businesses set up during COVID that were producing dawa, which is usually a table drink, but it now went into industry in terms of how do we preserve it, how do we package, how do we grow. And we're now seeing the growth of a new industry within that space for a drink that was considered, a domestic drink, if I can call it that. So thank you so much for your thoughts and for challenging us to look younger on our next birthdays. I'd like now to invite Mr. Andrew Hunt. Mr. Andrew Hunt is the CEO of Aduna. It's a purpose-driven health and wellness brand with a mission to bring to market the natural vitality of Africa's superfoods. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. I prefer to stand if that's okay. Thank you very much for the invitation to CFC. I'm very happy to be here. My company, Aduna, specializes in the sustainable sourcing and general pioneering of what we describe as underutilized indigenous natural ingredients, primarily for Africa, but I think also in a couple of other places as well. And just quickly to understand, give an idea of my background, I started my career in the advertising industry, learning and employing the dark arts to promote generally products and brands that I didn't necessarily believe in, for clients that didn't necessarily appreciate it. I had something of an existential crisis and ended up going to Gambia to help out for 6 weeks on a marketing of an agricultural project. I ended up staying there for 4 years, working with small-scale producers, in that case, horticulture. And that got me really inspired, firstly, generally by Africa and the countries I've visited, but also by kind of business where if the business does well and then sells a lot of products, then we start to see positive impact happening at the community level through sustainable income being generated for the rural community. During my time there, one of the other things I witnessed, which I'm sure will be nothing new for the people in this room, which was the real abject failure of the aid model for development, particularly in rural Africa. And what this looked like to me was these huge sums of money that were going into time-bound projects, always a kind of numbers game about 500 women or 3,000 women being trained to grow X, Y, or Z cash crop, which some highly paid consultants had said is the next big thing, and all this production is set up, and the women are trained, they're given seeds, inputs, tools, paid per diems for attending training sessions. But tragically, nobody's thought about what the market is. There isn't actually a commercial market for these products. All the products are not produced to the quality necessary for the market that's been identified by the consultant. So what happens routinely is these projects end up failing for that reason. The women go back to their traditional subsistence activities and wait for the next development project to come along. And this is this kind of downward spiral aid dependency that's been going on for so long. So at the same time, what I kind of became really conscious of was this extraordinary opportunity because, and I'll speak specifically about Africa, but I'm sure this is true, many other less developed regions of the world as well. Africa is home to more than 25% of the world's botanical species. And many of these are underutilized ingredients. And then, of course, we've had a couple of estimates of the market size for nutraceuticals already. This one I pulled up actually this morning. This is the health and wellness market size. So that's a bigger market. And that is predicted to be 7,000 billion, I think, by 2030. And that is exactly 7 trillion. So the biggest part of that is personal care. So I know we're not specifically talking about those, but those ingredients are also part of this equation that can be used in cosmetic formulations. And the next biggest is health and nutrition, of which the biggest segment of that is something called naturally healthy, which is the kind of product that we have earlier. And I'll throw another word in there, which is superfoods. That's more of a marketing term, but that's the game that I'm in. So yeah, and then I think this is the debate. Again, I'm sure everyone's aware of the context right now in terms of the food industry, sustainability. I think we're kind of moving beyond the idea of sustainability towards the concept of regeneration. It's not enough just to maintain the status quo. We now need to actually be repairing the damage that's been done. And there are certain ingredients that the food report outlines, particularly regenerative ingredients, of which a few of the ones that Adina works with are on that list. So yeah, we have this concept of what we call transformational foods, and those would need to meet 3 criteria. First is the commercial potential. That could be through functional health benefits. The second one would be social impact, and that means income generation for smallholders, and particularly women. The third one is environmental impact. So these are specific value chain ingredients, species that actually have ability to be conserved or can actually restore land and the actual production. And so this is what Adina has been focused on. It's 10 years now, really pioneering these from the village to the shelf. And I think the opportunities been outlined. There's also obviously a lot of constraints at the structure level, but it's good to also understand the challenges at the market level, because that is where they ultimately have to be and consumers have to go and put them on the shelves. So I will just focus on one ingredient, which is the baobab. Already my personal favorite. And Adina has been inspired by what we call the inspiring possibility of baobab. So this is not just any old, shrub and tree, amongst the rainforest or the savannah. This is an iconic tree. It's symbolic in many countries of Africa. It's just fabric is sacred, and the Lion King. So it's got a marketing story. It's got an incredible story to tell, as do many of these nutraceuticals. It's the only fruit in the world that grows naturally on the branch, as far as we know, which is quite extraordinary, and it makes it very appropriate for this kind of intervention, because these grow in the driest, remotest, harshest region, and they don't require refrigeration. So transport this around and get it out at a very remote location. Superfood, I know, is a bit of a controversial term. Is there such thing as a superfood? That's a debate for another day, but if there is, baobab is one of them. One people might have heard of, like acai and platinum and goji from different parts of the world. Baobab is significantly more dense than those. It's delicious. I have a picture of baobab every now and then. It tastes like a... sadly, I didn't. I just realized this morning I really quick water. I didn't taste it, but it tastes a bit like citrusy, like sherbet. So this is ticking boxes from a marketing perspective. This is my point. You know, you need to be ticking these boxes and that brings it to market. But for us, what was most compelling was not even the nutrient density in the case, is the inspiring possibility that it represents for rural Africa. So these trees grow wild, prehistoric species, predate mankind. It grows entirely wild, so no such thing as a baobab plantation. It's all community-owned, family-owned trees. It grows in 32 different countries. There's a huge crop of baobab, and we estimated that there could be 100 million potential families get the benefit of the value chain if the global market baobab is correct. So what's standing in the way of that happening is the fact that 99% of people outside of the country have never heard of it. So how do you solve that problem? So this was our idea. We have to make baobab famous. And so that is a challenge that is not usually addressed in these forums, because the demand side and the marketing is often seen as a kind of dirty word when you're interacting with dirty world. That's kind of, you know, the business people looking, if you know what I mean. And I understand why that is the case. But the thing is, if you don't have the demand, then the supply is, you know, you have to get the supply-demand dynamics working for the value chain. So we took this kind of one ourselves, a funny little startup 10 years ago, to actually capitalize the demand for baobab, and that's our impact model for demand creation. So how do you do that? There's through these, got to identify who your early adopters are: vegans, vegetarians, raw foodies, yoga mums, health and fitness fanatics. Then you've got to create a product that looks aspirational for them, and you know, getting it into the magazines, getting it into influencers, and stuff we were talking about earlier. When we got our first listing for baobab with a chain called Planet Organic in London, and we put it on the shelf, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought, once we get it on the shelf, you know, people are just going to come in and buy it. Then in the first 2 months, we only sold 10 million. That's about 7 stores, and I bought one of them. And I think my mum was going around buying the rest of it. We realised that, you know, that just doesn't work. You know, there's something that really needs to be done. People didn't know, even the staff in the stores didn't know about it. So this is a challenge for all, let's say, underutilized. There's a gap between the potential and the level of awareness that exists in the movement. So yeah, we've managed to get over that with a lot of creativity. Again, Pfizer and Virgin managed to get it to like in Doha 2011. Richard Branson who gave it a grant. We created a Make baobab famous campaign with a retailer in London, in a window display of all 850 stores. They actually ended up in the real life baobab miracle, rebranding themselves to Holland and Baobab. quite changed the name for their profile, their digital profile. And so we've spent really 10 years doing this, starting from complete obscurity in London to trending superfood. That's about what it means. And to the extent that, Mintel actually did a study on, the use of baobab product, studied by Grocer in the UK, which is very correct to say, what's the level of awareness, how many people have actually tried with heard of baobab. And so I think we got it from probably close to 0 to 6% of the UK population tried it, and 23% have heard of it. We've got about 60 million people, so somehow 50 million people heard of it. And then it's being used in, and this is really the end game, I think, is less about, yes, it's important that brands like us use it, but we also supply it as an ingredient. And when it starts to get taken up by bigger companies and used as an ingredient in other formulations, that's when the scale starts to happen. And that's when the impact will become exponential. So this is actually, I've left the best bit to last. What's the impact? What's the impact model? So we've been working in partnership with a local conservation NGO in Northern Ghana 8 years. They're right on the border of Northern Ghana and Burkina Faso. It's a very remote, very harsh, very poor region. And this baobab crop arrived bang in the middle of the dry season, the hungry season. So the fruits that were not being, the certain fruits were not being used, are now generating an entirely new stream of income at a time when there's no work and productive agriculture. So this has been actually a sort of transformation for those families, households, and communities. So, for example, one place I guess quite typical household size varies from 8 to about 12. No formal income, but the amount that you'll be able to identify is very low. You can see the year, and even the amount afterwards seems very low, but it's 3 times what it was before. And so, if you can imagine the kind of household that $2 per year, when you have 170, that makes a big difference. So I should just say that at scale we've reached, I think 2021, we collected 1,100 tons of baobab, about 2,000 or 3,000 women collecting, all organizing projects. And that equates to about 130 tons of product, and the amount of cash to burn, which is our working capital, is about £850,000. So that is £850,000. That's pretty fantastic. That's quite a large number for this type of rural area. And we're only a small business. And so then we also trying to scale this further to our partnership with Great Big Ward. We've co-launched something called the Great Big Ward Sourcing Challenge. So we launched this with UNCTAD and Business Like Property. And this is a challenge to major multinationals to say, look, here's a list of ingredients that can be sourced into our region, have the transformational qualities, and you work with them to increase throughout development and innovation, see how they can be used in your product. Because for us, we have to address a market side. Once you have a market, then you can definitely get investment to manufacturing. But if you don't have a market, even if you have the manufacturing, there's no way to sell it. And so, just to quickly say, It's not just baobab. We have two other ingredients, but the moringa is another exciting one with the main story, the miracle tree. And then we have, say, Konya, which is known as the seed of the universe, which is the oldest crop of West Africa. It's an indigenous grain from Guinea and Mali. It's low GI, it's nutritious, and it has potential to regenerate soil and grow it. So these are just the examples that we work with. I don't know, it would be many, probably hundreds of great candidates in different parts of the world, but it will require a lot of work, both at the market side and the supply side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And of course, your case study or presentation will form a basis for the panel discussion, which we'll have shortly. But for now, I'd like to welcome Mr. Nicholas, who's the Chief Operations Officer of CFC. He will present CFC's open call for proposals and, of course, how the CFC ensures that suitable financing can be made available to SMEs at the grassroots of the global commodity value chains. Mr. Nicholas.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction and good afternoon. I will use my time to introduce to you the Common Fund for Commodities a little bit more in detail, and also maybe most important what we have on offer. Next slide already. Yeah, I start talking. Yeah, we are a child of UNCTAD, as we mentioned before. We have been established under the British United Nations around 30 years ago. CFC currently has 101 member countries and a number of institutional members in our 30-something years of existence. We have engaged in implementing more than 500 commodity value chain projects with a value of $8 and I think close to 100. Since about 2014, our focus is on impact investment, and in that context, we have closed 50 loan contracts, average deal size is slightly above $1 million. Our current loan book has about $30 million. The next slide would then show that here comes our mission statement. Now we want to make commodities work for everyone, and that includes those who really think it doesn't work. That is a smallholder commodity nutraceuticals and sectors. It's our focus. It's on the product. In the next slide, you can see a little bit how we approach this. So for a long time, about 20 years ago, the CFC engaged in a technical assistance project, ground-based technical assistance project, in which we developed and managed technical assistance projects in a lot of commodity value chains, those challenges, opportunities, and then disseminated that knowledge around within stakeholders of our member countries. And while we were doing it, we were more and more working with the private sector. And that came to an extent where engagement of the private sector became a synonym for sustainability and what we're doing. And in all consequence of this, we basically changed our tools and our toolbox. And today, we provide loan financing for small and sized enterprises in much value chain. If you see the slide right in the center of that stylized value chain, we have SMEs. We consider them to be the drivers and the motor of these value chains. On the one hand, right on top, they have access to international markets and they have access to market information. And on the other hand, for many of them, on the other hand, you have smallholder farmers who actually, they have access to your smallholder farmers. They understand them in the local context of the political commodities that go along with feeding small farmers. Now, they provide the market, they open the market for the smallholders so they can deliver much better. And mind you, SMEs themselves, especially in the agri sector, provide jobs. Yeah, they add value locally on the raw materials they can export. So that's our belief. We believe that SMEs play a key role in providing access to rewarding and high-value markets for smallholders. There's only one problem. Usually, these kind of outfits do not have access to finance. They are too big for microfinance institutions, and they're too small and too unattractive from the formal banking sector. The transaction costs are considered to be too high, ticket sizes are too small, it's a business that's complicated to understand, and if you compound risks that are associated with SMEs, even shaky financials, risk, and then we add agri-risks on top of that, capacity, just you name it, and price, then we become very unattractive to the banks. And so that is where the CFC comes in. We do exactly that. We provide a number of adequate financial products to small entities for them to help them. Next slide, really is the introduction so what do we have to offer, what can or how can SMEs access to loan financing, what we are looking for. So next slide would be that we offer loan ticket sizes. Slide number 6, Andre. We offer ticket sizes between $300,000 and $2 million. The terms and conditions are usually highly individually negotiated, including the interest rate, which is usually at the lower range of the market rates. But that we always find is not the main point. The main point is that the CFC and our colleagues are specialized in providing agri-loans to SMEs. That means we understand the agricultural calendar, we understand the cash cycle, sectorial problems, and that provides us with the ability to tailor these loans for it. Our loans have a longer term, and that allows us to become a partner, and that also allows us to stay with our investees with the client, but also in bad times, which anything that has been agricultural. And we do not request unreasonable security from the platform. In that we are modest and we try to go with the limit that leaves the country with some means there. And if you see the middle on the right side, that is our most popular product, it's trade finance. That's nothing else than providing the enterprise with cash at the beginning of the harvesting service to go out to smallholders and actually buy macadamia nuts, buy cocoa, or buy sesame, or even borrow. They usually don't have access to that finance because it's very difficult to structure, and usually there's financing gets between 90 and 120 days, which we cover if we know how to do it. What we also do is provide term loans if we know how customers need it better, if we want to buy machinery, to increase or upgrade the processing. We can also come to us in rare cases. We also do that. If we move to slide 7, SMEs that want to apply for CFC loan financing need to be engaged in agri-value chain in a wider sense. If it is need to be located in one member country, we do require audited financial statements for the last 3 years, negotiable, and we want a turnover of $1 million or more in order to make sure that the business is really out of the informal sector. And if these criteria are being met, we look at 2 issues. One is the financial viability and the plausibility of the business case, and the other one is really if there is a credible impact. How many farmers are going to be reached, how many jobs are being created. That is the things definitely. And as a bonus, then the application consists some kind of innovative angle, and that it uses blockchain, it uses agroforestry certification, or it has an email management board. That is something that we do. On slide 8, we have a rough overview on how to apply. We make every effort to make the barrier to submit an application to the CFC as low as possible. We need call for proposals, which have 2 deadlines per year, and everything needed to fill out our proposal can be found on our website. A lot of different issues. At the end, what we want is a 20-page template filled out and submitted. And one thing that I can promise is that you read every proposal to make the document sensible. And if everything goes really right, after 6 months, this assessment will be terminated by the approval of our written forward agreement. Slide 9. The next call for proposal will close on 10 April. As I said, twice a year. We regularly have webinars where myself and colleagues of mine go through really every single page of the template to try to answer every question that might come up. The next webinar is on the 20th of March, according to the participate. And if we go to slide 10, the 8th of my week's presentation, if you don't have any questions or suggestions, please do not hesitate to contact us at any time. We are relatively small, but definitely we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicholas. And of course, we'll have a Q&A session right after the panel discussion that we will have now. And I'll quickly get into it in the interest of time. Ambassador Mohammed, I'd like to start with you. From the examples we've heard here this morning, baobab from Aduna, red rice from Bhutan, which I'd actually never heard of before. If LDCs have comparative advantages in nutraceuticals, what prevents them from tapping into the potential?
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question, but I'm not the right person to answer these questions because we have our practitioners here. We need a lot of NGOs to answer these questions to the millions of people who are joining in this workforce. As I think Andrew rightly mentioned, the thing is that initially that you are beginning with zero visibility. Hardly anyone know what it is. And even if they know it, they will look into it with a lot of doubts and a lot of, phytosanitary issues and other kind of things. So, and as you know, that in this part of the world, mostly in Europe and USA, getting a shelf space for your product, for that kind of product, is next to third world war for an SME's perspective. So we just want to flag it, and that's why I think we'd like to see more and more engagement with the UNCTAD and CFC and others to come forward, to bring it to the public, to the media, to the news, to the publications, to the younger generation, social media, so that know that this thing is for real and they're not for it. And we have to kind of look into what this new generation G and millennials, what they are looking for. They're looking for precisely away from the junk food. They need this quality food. So in one single way that we have to stand by the lack of endos as firm as we can, so that they can bring their product and they can kind of overcome the kind of barriers that are all over their parts. And from CFC, we assure you that we are there for your call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Speaking of collaborations, Mr. Kiwumi, I'll come to you. Tell us a little bit about what you see as the role of international cooperation, through UNCTAD and CFC in support of enhancing productive capacities.
So I think I think I'd just like to first follow up on Ambassador mentioned. I think one of the key things for CFC and one of that, we want to bring this out to the public so that it can start gaining momentum, but more importantly, it can start garnering and gaining attention. I think it's critical that people understand it's not just about nutraceuticals taking the extent. It's an economic viable sector which people can recognize. Because one of the key things we're asking people to diversify. This is very key. Not just diversify, but poverty alleviation. But I'd like to focus on the diversification and the fact that we need to scale. And one of the key things which I learned from Nicholas, yes, sounds great. Nicholas is that there are, of course, many risks involved in this sector. But I have years begun to see that the private sector are engaged and to have the transparency, recognizing knowing the risk, but they're also trying to provide farmers people with the food to mitigate. But more importantly, it's very hard to so it's certainly we need to think about the partnership here, is how we can bring private sector with mechanisms and funding mechanisms together. Trying to enhance the government care of scale up things. I think there's a lot of possibilities. Let's go to your presentation. Scaling this up because when you make this in the market, you can prove that it's going to be certainly by 20,000. Then people get to right. But it's all about bringing it forward and also bringing it to practice. Nothing is going to do. This is the sector, the new and also that they need to register all these projects to market that especially from the rural areas, not the way to look at that. And lastly, I would mention a very fascinating affair that but there is a problem with the data because of climate change. And because the bear wants store here is worth in the one way, people is because they're the farming make the right community. But there is very about when you're inside. So there is also an environmental dimension of this. And they could be, yes, what we did. And also the other thing that I'm looking at, the means of the highlight for it's the new commodities, there's carbon credits. We have to look at that because that's all market story, a very deep afterwards to with carbon credits certified. We are getting additional income. So I think this is why cleaning up private sector with organizations, we can look and look and just to see and we can areas of plastic, so that we can maximum
All right, thank you. And you've also brought to, I guess, our attention the private sector, and we do have another session at 5 o'clock with TFC. We'll be talking a little bit more about the new fund that will also be targeting involvement of the private sector. So thanks for the quick marketing for our 5 o'clock. So please join us at that time again. Andrew, I'd just like to come to you, because at the end of the day, the person that benefits from most from the data that you've shared is the farmer. We gave an example of the lady who was earning about $43, and that's after about 470. And I'm just 170. So I'm curious from a quality perspective, because on one hand, you are empowering the farmer, but you also are giving her the opportunity to export, to produce a product that is of, can be exported, because that's something many small farmers don't even think about. So just tell us about how, from your experience, how enhancing production capacities has been for these farmers who would probably only sell to their next door neighbor.
Yeah, and I think in some ways the farmer themselves don't really care where they sell it as long as they sell it. So at the time we started with Baobab, there was not really a local demand for it, because in Ghana there isn't really a customer to consume it. There is in Kenya, although there's still a lot of surplus in Kenya as well. Yes, the standard of processing that we require is higher than what they would do to sell it in the local market. And so it's our local partners on the ground in Ghana who are actually responsible for all of that. And we've been through organic certification, there's an organic premium, that's to do with collection zones and making sure that it stays with we've got pesticides. And then last year we got the Fair Wild certification as well, which is a specific actual accreditation for wild harvested crops, because they can spend work the same way as commodities. So there's also a fund, part of that Fair Wild fund that goes that can be just by the community. But really, when it comes to quality is a massive issue in this whole debate, because if you're a willing cooperative, or even if you're a local aggregator producer, you're just not going to be anywhere close to the standards that are required for the international market. And that is a huge piece of capacity building that has to be done. We've been doing it, we've been doing it ourselves with our local partners and our own private quality people. But I think that when it comes to these constraints, I think with these new ancient ingredients, it's innovation work that has to be done. And I think that, for me, is a big missing piece in the financial jigsaw, because most people want to participate in the value chain once it's established to an extent. And we think about multinationals. Multinationals want to get involved with something once it's established. They don't generally want to take on the risk of anything to do with the quality or anything to do with the market, even though they have the clout. So I think there's a need to have this unconventional partnerships where these people get on there when you've got your local community organisation, you've got your multilateral organisation, making private sector multinational business. But I think we also throw in there some smaller, more entrepreneurial type of organisations who are actually into innovation. The bigger the organisations get, the less they're into innovation.
All right, I'll still stay with you for a moment, especially on the marketing side. And you had some very interesting partnerships with the stores that you went into from the information and marketing side, just telling people there is a product such as Baobab and it can help you, in one thing or another. And I see from the document that I had looked at earlier that one of the possible outcomes is on the international marketing. And I think there's also an aspect of local marketing, because there is a market even within the where these products are grown. So I'm curious about, from your experience in growing the Baobab brand, what can other countries and export markets learn from your journey?
Yeah, thank you. That's such a good question, because the way that we set out doing demand creation, knowing, and when we were trying to get investment, private investment, the potential investor for us to be asked, can you patent it? Right, no, we can't patent it. It's approved in Africa. Then can we control the supply? Like, hey, countries like the supply it goes in 32 countries wide. And they're like, okay, well, we can't invest in this again because we're going to spend money educating the market about something and you have no barriers to entry. And we did that on purpose because that's our impact. So we were looking for enlightened investors who were willing, we wanted to do that, but there aren't really many out there, to be honest. Educating the market is a huge challenge. We've taken it on. I think we've been successful in raising awareness about it, and we've been very successful in impact. We haven't been successful enough in making money. But I think where I would see this from our journey, like there's something called the African Baobab Alliance, which is a trade organization with membership throughout Africa. And, these specific institutions need trade industry bodies, and those are the guys who could be getting grants because organizations that CFC's job, but big organizations in finance find it very difficult to give grants to private companies in the market. I understand why, but marketing is also needed regardless. So who's going to do that? How can you have a structure where money can go in large quantities, because if you want to create a global demand for a new nutraceutical, that's not a small matter. You're talking about millions, tens of millions, but it will have a real return on investment because you're moving the demand curve. And that's what has to happen. You have to really move the demand curve. So I would say, writing a check through the African Baobab Alliance for $5 million, and then, they can educate, they can employ people, they can be doing it for a charity. That's going to affect the demand for Baobab globally. So I think that's where I would picture.
All right, so I'd like to open it to the floor now for any questions that we may have. I do have a microphone here. We have one at the back as well. Any questions to our panelists? Yes, please. We have an audience on Zoom, so we'd like them to hear as well.
Thanks for the but my question is like, not thinking figuring sometimes, because even if you feel like the revenue for the demand, what that means is to stabilize like the supply. I think there will be one story, you can invest in money there, we managed to get some good facts. Not enough supply and so the various elements in the long-term relationship with projects, we got kinds of supply and even those short-term job with that there to expect problems and say and smaller so again they the problem and living
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, but particularly with moringa as well, which is we're doing that. But the moringa is like a technical process, it's a multi-variable process. But the quality of it is very difficult. How we've that's kind of what we're specializing in, is trying to create systems like that. It's really the only way that we can able to do it is by having multiple tool systems. there's the risk for a multinational to source, in one source in Africa, they said we're not going to take it on because the supply risk is too high. So we kind of need intermediary, and that's what's needed. But the same can be applied to other nutraceuticals. We have to build capacity, and it takes a long-term project. It takes, you've been at it for 10 years. I think it's something that it takes decades. For a new ingredient, you have to, having one producer to get quality is enough. You have to have, you have to have a whole collective, but in a way they have. I worked with mango in Temple, and they have a mango symposium. And the mango community in the world is trying to gain technical detail. They've been doing that, mangoes, they've been working out for 100 years. It's very different varieties and cultivars, stabilizers, and all of that. So that won't, it takes a lot of time, I think, realistically.
Yes, go ahead.
It's so much engagement with the founder and CEO of agricultural infrastructure in also the president of the National Federation of Agriculture. I was not prepared for the annual discussion in terms of realizing question, being able to directly give them what, what kind of speech and explanations that our church are just thinking they are few from the few. So we just need to know about the issue of the marketing, distribution, sales, and number of moments. And then the question is, we're talking about marketing and distribution of sales. We quite talking about the budgets. So what your the direction the market in terms of production and how the market strategy the loss of the products. The minister the distribution who are working with
You can ask.
Actually, my question to our panelists is actually one of the links to the culture of the honest in process. 3 years now we are on level small deployments. Since then we started working with a lot of people which supports especially to this local rights. They thought they promoted the some own investments for years that have been similarly to bring some systematic investment instead in installation stage. Because our more challenging thing the people the rights versus the local rights. In looking at the local rights, they have to be following change. That's the one thing that was to fill the gaps in terms of sales, marketing, distribution. So we decided to take the challenge that the measure of the things from the that is to use some of the industrial machines that we do have on, very comparable with the additional rights. And then our gaps failed. When I see because in our future, the total benefit of the system ascent in looking at agriculture, it's a long-term investment. And then as a whole, families, we plan to have because we have a database that works in around 2,000 farmers, 5,000 farmers. We're going to be depending on to start supporting them. And it has become a challenge to us, most especially. We are not even having the kind of support of the leader to help this level of farmers that we have. the LTA to get money or ship the money to China. It's going to get from the productions. So I'm thinking as to whether what would be the more feasible way if actually those institutions are willing to have smallholder farmers and only to get those rights when they execute their one percent of the rolling or offering like what would be the more possible your intervention in that field.
All right, thank you. Allow us to respond to the first two questions first. The first one I think is directed to you in terms of what comes before the sales and the marketing.
Sure, yeah, I think it's a fine balance between production and sales. I think, first of all, it's always good to concentrate like started. You have to start small. And you have to get it right. You have to get the product quality right over a period of time before you can really push any market over the trade. If you go too early, then the quality bad, then at the end. So how we did it, because we're minded to support small-scale farmers in Africa and understand the challenges. So the way that that's the purpose of our brand, we sourced it for our own brand first, and we satisfied ourselves the quality and the faith of it. But our set of quality standards is much less onerous than the bigger company. The bigger the company gets, the more different standards. Reams and reams and reams of things you have to fill in. Accreditation, which you will never have from day one. So you have to, what we did is we worked on quality, use our own brand, we satisfy the quality for our brand, and then over a period of years, step by step, get the systems in place that we aim to improve the quality to get more accreditation, to get it to the point where you can then reliably supply a bigger customer. Because we really only get one point. If you fail, then we're out.
And I guess it does also say something about the phytosanitary standard. If there is a possibility, harmonizing it is pretty hard to get. But if local producers are encouraged to get to a level where the phytosanitary standards are close to where they should be in an international market, then it should then also make access to these markets a lot faster.
It would, but the standard that you need to do that would be much higher and much more costly than what we need to supply your local market. So if your local market is not viable, generally, for example, the baobab that we process in northern Ghana, it's too expensive to sell on the local market. Even if we sell it at the cost price, it's too expensive for the local market. Because of the processes that are in place. So you can sell a lower quality sourced product in the local market at a much lower price or the export market. So then you have this chicken and egg issue. I think that the problem with the moringa thing is that a lot of, I saw a lot of moringa projects where they've been so big from the beginning, they haven't really processed much moringa supply, and they put in 100 hectares and they spend 5 million on processing it, and then they can have protein start and it's okay, and generally it doesn't. So you have to start small, and it's also comes from time. That stuff, I'm sure there are people who have the ability to actually do stuff.
All right, thank you. For the second question, Ambassador Mohammed, would you like to take it?
You can compliment me. Yeah. First of all, thank you for the excellent question. I think this is kind of one of discussion. You brought us to the core. I wish I can take this discussion to the plenary and make our leaders hear this thing. This is the kind of bullseye. How do we connect the smallholders to the market? And like you say in Africa, that every first unit begins with the first step. And that first step has to come from the local government. You have to own it. And like many of the businesses that we are discussing about, initially they may not make a business case. So you need some kind of support. You need some kind of incubating period so that they can come over this place. And this is where I think our international community also needs to get it right, because as we speak, most of our donor funds and others are kind of biased towards the big farms, big businesses, away from the smallholders. And this is why I think after 10 years of Istanbul Programme of Action, we are still left with 46 LDCs, not 24. So we need to go back to the root, go back to the government. First, we have to own it. And you said yourself, you're from Liberia, and your country is, in a sense, an inspiration. You have shown some to the world that through good governance, that you can not only kind of stand by people, even you can take up with some of the big businesses and mining mobiles. I'm talking about the time during the presidentship. So this is why I think we'd like to pay attention to the first various steps need to be owned and governed by that particular government. We should not hesitate to say that there is a lot of governance issues that feels like it, but we can easily overcome because we don't need billions. The whole smallholder family, they call it that even combining the household and agriculture needs, it's only a matter of 270 billion per year. So from a global community, we're talking about trillions. This is not a big money, but it is an essential money that we need to provide. But, and also, there are other things that our governments at times, they go by the cycle of the elections. So they try to invest more into bridges and ports and roads, not much as to our schools, our education, our science, our R&D. Because the outcome for them is much delayed. I would request you to all to look into two countries, China and India, how they brought about their agricultural transformation. China, if you go that in the 90s, on average person, it will be very difficult to get someone beyond 8th grade. If you go now, you will find it that everyone is a college graduate there. When we are kids, we are kind of alarmed by a novel. It's called Population Boom in India. They said that there will be riot, there will be famine, there will be no food. But look at India, how India transformed it through its agricultural transformation using technology and support services of the government, cooperation and other things. So there was no famine, no kind of riot that happened. What really happened is a technical, logical innovations. The same Indian farmers who used to produce wheat 50 years ago, they are producing almost 4 times higher now. This is what we need to invest in at the grassroots level. And at the outside of the international community, for the likes of UNCTAD and others, we would like to bring this reality to the fore, because these poor people, they don't have a voice. They don't come here in a conference like this. So you have to come and you have to speak for them and try to let them heard and known and heard by the other people. More precisely on what we can do in terms of finance, I would like to ask my colleague to give you some more details. But thank you for this excellent question.
Yeah, just to add a little bit, I think you are a good candidate. I would like to invite you to join our webinar on the 20th of March. We're going to really try to answer all these questions. Overall, in your case, it's interesting but difficult. That is what it's a local case and advice can affect a lot of stakeholders, but are subject to heavy influence by policy changes in the community and break the neck of private sector confidence advantage. So, but please join that webinar and then you can find out.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to economies. A very exciting topic. I'm Jessica Chombo from Gambia, and the investments for the Gambia Development Project. We promote further investment and also development for SMEs. Very much interest. I think safety and Andrew, Bob. I want to understand, this is a natural fruit, vegetable. And in particular, in most of the African countries. In Zambia, we have this fruit. It is not very common. We grew up with it and we don't really, it's like to us, it is not food. Okay? So we'll be just looking at it just goes to waste. I, for one, I think I just started seeing just street vendors walking around with bottles of plastic and a bulb of fruit, drinks. And I just with one just. So I just want to find out, is there a deliberate move to promote the local, is it a demand on sensitization to know the natural aspect of this fruit in terms of the nutritional value and the rest, so that we can be promoted this locally. We know the value of the fruit, because you find that we don't really know, most locals don't really know. It's just played with the children and the rest. We don't know the value of the fruit. CFC, I want to find out also, is there some provision in terms of especially the capacity building in R&D for these most indigenous African national activities that we don't see here? I think I would like to know if there is a way of your promoting or perhaps facilitating the R&D to reflect on these most African indigenous things that we don't really mind about to enjoy that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chimbo. And you said, if you can keep our answers a little brief, I know we're not doing great on time.
Sure, yeah. I think there is a need to promote the benefits of baobab and these other products at the domestic, local level. It's not our job to think we're a nutraceuticals based in London, and we're trying to create demand for the international market. But I really think there's a big need for that, an opportunity. And there's a baobab producer out in Zimbabwe. The international market can also be unreliable. So I think to have a stable business, you really need to have a good domestic market as well. And then your export is kind of setting that off. So this particular producer in Zimbabwe, they've been building the local market with manufacturers, food and beverage manufacturers in Zambia and Zimbabwe, and introducing baobab to the consumers domestically, and they've had some success now that the domestic demand is higher than the international. And that's great. I think that's necessary. Also, there's a potential biochemical strategy about the 28 ingredients and chemicals. I think this moment is hormone rights and something like that. But actually, this is part of the nutrition grain of that region. Somehow it's been supplanted by imports from China, and actually it's tasted as a good. So there's a need, people about the need to re-educate these people in energy about this particular issue. So I think there's a big role for that.
Thank you, Andrew. Nicholas, would you like to speak?
Yeah, R&D is a practical it's beyond the scope, but we see a team where we are really specializing in providing important SMEs. We basically, falling into a gap between market finance and the banking sector. However, if there would be a company approaching us or a business approaching us that has grown out of venture capital startup and the like and shows some signs of stability, then we are obviously very interested in assisting that company to make sure that it's stable.
Let me compliment what Nicholas said. You see that it's not our focus. We primarily try to these islands in their product market, but we also do such a capacity in another program that and they are now actually primarily working other
There is something for different of but the good news is that we are going to launch a new fund in agricultural commodities like and which we can give with the analysis and brought in which is our participant in our investment in this because we now increasingly try to stand and realize that knowledge is not a difference. Information is a new currency. And this is why I think now from your place or from everyone's place, we try to see that our new fund, the X fund, agricultural energy there is lot there, but we are part of it because we can bring money together.
Thank you, Ambassador. Okay, we'll take one last question and then we'll close. Please go ahead.
Balaji from India, Government of India. The point which MJ highlighted, the production, marketing, sales, and more increasingly the phyto and chemical measures are coming in large scale. So it's better the farmers do the first, which is becomes partly the farmers from the beginning they are integrated into adjusting the sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Then the chain will become phase and export.
So right from the beginning. Is that possible?
That's the deal with capacity building. Our specified large development area which takes care of this problem. The notification levels when we look at 95% and 22, it's phenomenally going on.
All right, I think you do raise that.
Unless the farmers are introduced to those things at the very beginning, later integration would be a very difficult.
All right, do we have any response to that, or can I close for now? All right. All right, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for making time to be part of our conversation this afternoon. And I'd like to thank our panelists as well for sharing the insights and thoughts. As we mentioned earlier, there is another event where the fund will be launched this evening at 5. You can see in your program exactly where it will happen, so I hope we'll see you there as well. For now, have a good afternoon. Thank you.